Tasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So, yesterday we saw that if you really want to know what is Vedanta Shastra for, then it is for knowing the nature of life. Okay? But then the opposition, there is always this person looking at and trying to question everything that you are saying. So he is asking, what kind of knowing yourself, what does it mean? Right? Doesn't everybody just know oneself? What are you talking about when you are saying that you need to know yourself? Okay? The very fact that we've lived our lives and done whatever that we have done is because we know ourselves. If we didn't know ourselves, we would not have made any decisions to do whatever we had done. Right? So this is where what then is knowing is defined. Otherwise, you don't know what exactly is it that you want to know. So therefore, it says that knowing Atma means that undoing the mix-up. We are mixed up, right? Who am I is not very, even though we have some knowledge of who we are, but there are Yushmat and Asmat Pratyaya are mixed up, right? What is mixed up is also identified. Okay? What belongs to not I is taken as I. Okay? And therefore, what is the not I? There is one part which is not I and it's taken to be I. Okay? Is what? Your body, your mind, your senses, which actually belongs to Yushmat Pratyaya, but it is taken to be Asmat Pratyaya. That is the nature of the problem. Okay? And then so what? You can ask so what? I take my body as I, so what? What's the problem? Okay? So therefore he says, it's not only that we take the body, the nature of body as my reality, but the attributes of the body are also taken as my attributes. So how is the body? It is limited, it is mortal, it is constantly undergoing change, and it is an imperfect mechanism. Even though it's a brilliant mechanism, but what? Has its tremendous limitation, right? So therefore, all those attributes of the body are loaded onto what? My attributes, I, the nature of I. And then, if I take the body as I and the attributes of body as I and live in this world thinking that this is who I am, then, and within that try to get what? Permanent happiness or that freedom, is it possible? Right? It's impossible because you have defined yourself as mortal and you want to be what? Permanently existing. Now, body you can't change, you can't reprogram it to be immortal. So as long as you take yourself to be the body, this problem of mortality you cannot solve. And neither you can solve the problem of fear that comes from that mortality. You can't solve it. Because you can't change the body. Right? So therefore, you are in a losing game. If you keep this adhyasa, mix up, and within this mix up, if you try to solve the problem, it is never going to be solved. Okay? And then it says there is not only these two adhyasas, there is one more adhyasa, which makes our life even more complicated, which is what we call mama idam. That is another type of adhyasa altogether. Okay? Not only you want well-being for yourself, but you have defined few people, like I think yesterday Aparna was saying, few people as close to you. Among all these billions of people, how many people you carry in your mind or with whom you relate closely?
A handful.
Handful. And how many that could be?
Maybe a dozen or more.
Yeah, exactly. So this about a dozen people that are close to us, and our well-being also gets defined not only by our own well-being but their well-being. So if something happens to them, what happens? My child is in trouble, so I become in trouble. Okay? So therefore, now in order for you to be happy, now imagine you are stuck with three kinds of adhyasa. One is you're taking yourself as the body, which itself is limited. The attributes of the body get imputed on that, and plus all the other people that you think are close to you, you want them to be exactly as you want them to be. And what is your capacity to control their lives? You can't even so-called control your own life. How is it that you are going to ensure that everybody that you relate to, whether they are your parents, as Surya was saying, whether they are children, they are your friends, they are your colleagues, and for whom you care, everything happens to them exactly as you want it. Who can do that? There is not one human being who can do that. So that means with this kind of superimposition on I, when some putre nashte aham nashtaha. So this is exactly, okay. So this is how that mama idam is defined. If something happens to my son, it has happened to me. Okay? So therefore we take on somebody else's problem out of that love as our problem. So we load this I with all these limitations, and we keeping it intact, we go in the world and try to solve our problems. And there is no solution. So therefore, when we are talking about knowing ourselves, then what are we actually trying to do? What is the pursuit?
Overcoming this mix-up.
Exactly. So that means we are overcoming this mix-up. Because otherwise you don't know what does it mean when I say knowing yourself. We don't know, we just talk. Oh, I'm knowing myself. So anybody can ask you the question, knowing what? Why do you need to know yourself? Don't you already know yourself? And we have no answer. Okay? So therefore, as Uddhav says, when we are talking about knowing ourselves, we are talking about there is a mix-up which leads to all this confusion, and we are trying to undo this confusion. Right? We saw that, and then we saw the fact that what then is this adhyasa? What is adhyasa? Okay? So we saw two definitions, and the first definition is when you see something, one thing for the other. Okay, that is adhyasa. Adhyasa means, how would you use, what is an English word which is appropriate for the word adhyasa?
Illusion?
Illusion, I don't know. Illusion, yes, in some ways.
Probably superimposition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a more precise word. Superimposition. Superimposition is, when you take one thing for the other. That means there is a mix-up. Okay? Illusion is a little too vague word, and it's all mystical. And so here it's a very, Vedanta is a very rational. You use your, so it's a good word to use superimposition. Superimposition means that you are superimposing on one thing something else. Okay, so that means the first definition of adhyasa was that you are taking one thing for the other. Okay, you are taking superimposing one on the other. The second definition we saw of adhyasa was what that as Preeti mentioned, we understood the cause. That the definition included why we are doing it, right? It says that there is something in front of you, and the example that was given was a shell on the beach. And let's say that shell is white and shining. Okay, so now you're carrying an impression of something which is white and shining in your buddhi. Okay, you're carrying smriti rupe, means you're carrying a memory. Okay, and purva drishtaha, something which is seen earlier by you. So what is? Sorry?
Association of the two?
Exactly. It's not if association, if it is deliberate, there is no problem, like Savinda said. But if it creates a mistake, right, then I will distinguish between the two. Okay. So now just listen to this example, that what you have in mind as something which is white and shiny, you think that it's what? That is previously you have seen something white and shiny, and that is silver. Okay. So therefore, while you are walking on the beach and you see something which is white and shiny, what happens to you? You immediately conclude that it is silver. And actually what is that? Shell. Absolutely. So that means you carry a memory and then you superimpose that object on the object which is in front of you. Okay? And that leads to what? Mistake. Right? It leads to mistake because instead of seeing shell as shell, you are seeing it as silver. Yes?
Not only mistake, then you are doing things and you will run after this and thinking that it's silver, and it will also condition your behavior, your actions. So it's not just here, it's also action. It determines the way you are acting.
You have a common example?
Yeah, this one, for example, this shell in silver. If you think that this shell is a silver coin, you will say, wow, a silver coin. Okay, this is a positive, let's say, going towards something because of this mistake. Then another way to take it, what Neema gave as an example, this snake and rope. What will happen if you mistake the rope for a snake in terms of your action?
Yeah.
So that is at the level of emotion, but at the level of action, what will happen?
Run.
Okay?
You have some of our lives?
Sorry?
You have an example of our life?
Yeah.
Daily life? I mean, I don't know.
Neema, you want to give an example?
Yeah, let's proceed because I need to cover. I mean, I think all these roles and all these Surya was talking about in meditation is all our superimpositions. The whole life is lived. You know, as I told you yesterday, I gave many examples that you take the body to be I, right? Then all the limitations of the body, you want to be slim, and the body what is going to gain weight, and constantly you are superimposing what you suffer from complexes based on the body.
Yeah, okay. Now I got
You got it? I mean, I think I have given enough examples. Yes. So you see one thing for the other, and then the body is mortal, so you can't get rid of your fear. So all these examples I have already given. Yes. Now the third definition is something which we say, the third definition of adhyasa. अन्ये तु यत्र यत् अध्यासः तस्य एव विपरीत धर्मत्व कल्पनाम आचक्षते इति. Okay? So this is what the previous two were about. What were the previous two definitions were about? Arthadhyasa, mistaking one object for the other. The third definition covers what? Dharmadhyasa. Dharmadhyasa means you don't mistake an object for the other object, but you take the attributes of one object and impute it on the other. Okay? I gave a very simple example of what crystal and the clock. The crystal is clear and the clock is red. What would you think that if you don't think about it properly, then you would think that the crystal is what? Red. So now, this is, you don't mistake the cloth for crystal, you only what? Take the attributes of cloth as the attributes of crystal. Do you see the difference between the two different kinds of adhyasa? Do you see the difference? One is, rope is taken as snake or shell is taken as silver. Here, you don't take cloth as crystal, you only impute the color which belongs to the cloth as that of crystal. This is what we call dharmadhyasa. Okay? So the definition is you impute dharma of one thing on the other. Okay? So therefore, in real life example, as Yuta is saying, let's say you make a conclusion that this person is bad. Are you mistaking one person for the other person? No. You're not creating a mistake. It's not I'm taking Rupa for Meera. No. Right? What I'm imputing on that one person are certain attributes which may or may not belong to that person at all. But I convince myself that those attributes belong to that person. And Rajan gave the perfect example of that. Right? He was working in this company and it always seemed like the people are mean and the company, the boss is bad and this and that. And then one day he woke up and he says, actually there is maybe some problem with me and the way I look at things. People may do things out of confusion is a fact. Could be. Okay? But the labeling that we do, that this person is bad, we load it further. Right? It's not that we are just imagining everything. Please understand that. There may be some truth, maybe that person has done something. Right? And that is because of certain confusion that person may have themselves. Okay? But because of that little behavior, I label the person and I name that as though that is really the quality of the person all the time, is my superimposition. Okay? A person may not have told you an accurate, detailed, sometime fact. Fact. Could be. Right? I'm not saying everything is only our imagination. Please, for Vedanta, you need to have a very sane mind. We go from one extreme to the other. Oh, forgive everyone, everyone's wonderful. Everyone is not wonderful. You just have to be factual. Okay? The person may have done something and you may recognize the person may have told you something inaccurate. It's a fact. But because of that, the person is a liar. As to the person is always lying and is only taken to lies. So that is what? Your superimposition. There is one reality there, but how do you make it much bigger? And next time you interact with that person, you think that when you have labeled that person as a liar, are you going to be open with that person? You load your own interaction with that person. Okay? So therefore, there is no mistaking one person for the other, but it is what? mistaking the attributes, either not seeing, you always, like for it, this is a very simple example that Surya gives very often, that a friend passes by and you say hi and the person doesn't respond. This is a fact, that may be a fact. Then what do you think about the whole event?
He doesn't like me.
Doesn't like me, is upset with me. So this is all, one fact is that the person did not look at me and did not respond to my hi. Fact. The person doesn't like me reaches another level altogether. And next time, then what? You interact with that person, you keep in this mind what? The person doesn't like me. And you are convinced, because the data did come from outside. It's not your total imagination. The data came, but it got loaded. And when it got loaded with your own interpretation, you did not stop and ask yourself, how much of it is the truth and how much of it is my addition to this truth. You convince yourself that your whole story is the truth. That seems like reality to you. And all your interactions, as Surya was saying, are going to be defined by what? The reality that you have created for yourself when you meet that person. Because that seems like the reality. So that is what we call dharmadhyasa. Okay? And this is a huge thing. A lot of our suffering in this world actually is because of dharmadhyasa. We don't mistake one person for the other, but why human relationships are a problem? Because we suffer, as Surya was saying in morning meditation, two basic things. Taittiriya Upanishad talks about how we load ourselves based on interactions that we have had. Kim aham sadhuna akaravam, kim aham papam akaravam iti. Beautiful. They are very precise in what they are saying. How do I load myself in my interaction with people? There are two basic feelings I have. With reference to what they did to me, I carry hurt. Why did this person do this to me? And why did this person did not do this to me? I wanted that person to be nice to me. I wanted that care. I wanted that person was never available. Or what? This person was so mean to me and didn't listen to my needs. So that means what? Omissions and commissions. Omission of somebody or commission. Commission is when somebody did something to me, I carry a lot of hurt with reference to that. And when somebody did not do something to me which I wanted that person to do, I carry equal amount of hurt. But that's not the whole story. There is also guilt. Because I'm also acting in this world. I'm not just receiving other people's acts. With my own self, what? Why did I not do something to this person? Or why did I do something to this person? A very common phenomena that occurs when you lose a person who's close to you. A lot of people go through that. A lot of people I have seen. It seems as though the account is unsettled. You're carrying guilt and you're carrying hurt. Oh, I should have spent more time. I should have called my mom more. I should have done this. I should have been more explicit about the love that I have. Because it's not an account which is set. It seems incomplete. The person left and you did not settle the account. So there is a lingering that happens. And this is why people keep saying, why the person is alive? Show all your love. and show all your care, because otherwise it will linger on. And that lingering is what? Nature's arrangement. You can't totally interfere. This is why I never give an advice, get rid of that guilt. Who? Everybody wants to get rid of that guilt. You can't interfere with nature's design. This is why I said intelligent living means what? You understand this is a psychological order. Then, if this is a psychological order, can you eliminate that feeling of guilt and hurt totally? Can you? You try to eliminate it completely by coming to Vedanta, but actually it doesn't get eliminated. If you are coming to Vedanta to just totally rub it off, you will be disappointed. Vedanta can only make you see the fact that that feeling of guilt and hurt has its own reasons. And when you begin to see there are these reasons, and then you take lessons from that, and you change your behavior, then what? That is intelligent living. Then over a period of time, because you have changed, what? The impact and the heaviness of these things naturally recede. So that's why in my class you will never hear, oh, don't be sad because you are not the body. That is really the most primitive way of handling Vedanta. Primitive. We are sophisticated, refined teaching. Okay? Once you understand how the laws work, you need to find a way to work within those laws, to help yourself. Right? So therefore, this guilt and hurt cannot be eliminated by knowing just instantaneously, I am not the body and I am not the mind, so I am free from, this is simplistic. So therefore, let me just, I am this awareness. That's an escape. Right? So therefore, you need to understand where there is adhyasa and you need to handle it, you need to correct it. Because unless you correct it, this bigger picture will never be clear. Okay? So dharma adhyasa is something, guilt and hurt, everybody has to do their job. Undealt with baggage that you have. What are the tools that you have to deal with all these baggages that I will talk about in other class. But one thing that you must understand that you need to deal with it. By coming to Vedanta, automatically it will not get erased. Right? So, this is what we call dharmadhyasa. Let's proceed further. In all these three definitions, he says there is one thing which is common. Sarvatha api tu anyasya anya dharma avabhasatam na vyabhicharati. Okay? In all these three definitions, what is common? The common is that what? Some mix-up is there. Whether it is mistaking one object for the other, it is mistaking the attributes of one thing for the other, or it is seeing that person as they are, but imputing on that person something which is not really totally true, maybe partially true, but not totally true. There is always some mix-up. That is true for within all three definitions. Okay? So therefore, here he gives the two examples. Kshuptika hi Rajatavat avabhasate. This is the example that we took. Okay? Rajat means silver. Silver and Kshuptika is shell. So shell is taken to be silver, or ekachandraha sa dvitiyavat iti. Okay, so there is this example is given in the Vedas that where there is only one moon, we see two moons. When does that happen? That's a very interesting example. One moon we see as two moons.
When your vision is blurred.
Exactly, when your vision is blurred.
Cataract.
Yeah, exactly. When your vision is blurred. Right? So therefore, these are the ways. And where do you see two? There. But where is the problem? Here. Right? So this is what it says is adhyasa. So now, imagine if you don't understand that the problem is here and you try to what? Fix the moon. What happens?
Frustration.
Yes, exactly. So that means if you want to correct the mistake, you need to find out where the locus of the mistake. Without finding the locus of the mistake, you are trying to correct it, you will get nowhere. Okay? So therefore, identifying the locus of mistake is the first step in its solution. Okay? So this is where it says that is adhyasa. So now let's go through the notes of the second class, because I have covered all the points, and see if you can understand that. Because I think it will be very easy now. Somebody else wants to read it? You want to read? Preeti, rather to read. You have clear diction. The second class. Just read the notes and make sure that everybody understands what are the
What
notes.
is the definition of adhyasa?
Yeah.
So what is the definition of adhyasa? First, based on memory, you impute on the object in front of you another object which was seen by you before. Or you impute the attributes of one object on another. Second, adhyasa can be defined as because of lack of discrimination, there is an illusion of something being there that is not actually there. Or there is an illusion of some attribute that is not there. Examples of adhyasa are a shell seems like silver on the beach. One moon seems like two. Third, that which is not there, my buddhi sees it. Tat sami, tat buddhi.
Okay, now that is okay. That is fine.
All that which is not I is taken as I. This is called adhyasa or superimposition or error.
Is it okay? Now, because silver and so now we will. Is everything fine? Are these notes clear to you? Yes. Okay. Now let's proceed. Because now it seems as though we've made our position very, very clear about what is adhyasa. Okay? But the whole tradition is that there are people who are very kind of smart and they are not going to leave you. So they have other questions. So they are not just totally satisfied with everything. So let's see what question they have. Right? So this is what we call the opposition. Right? They are asking this question. Katham punaha pratyak atmani vishaye adhyasaha vishayat tat dharmana sarvahi puraha avasthite vishaye vishayantara adhyasya iti yushmat pratyayasya upetasya cha pratyak atmanaha avishayatvam bravishi uchyate na tavat ayam ant ekantake avishayah अस्मत् प्रत्यय विषयत्वात् अपरोक्षत्वात् च प्रत्यक आत्म सिद्धिः न अयम् अस्ति नियमः पुरो अवस्थिते एव विषये विषान्तर अध्यसितव्यम् इति अप्रत्यक्षे अपि आकाशे बालाः तलमलन इत्यादि अध्यस्यन्ति तम एतम एव लक्षणम अध्यासम पंडिताः अविद्या इति मन्यते तत् विवेकेन च Vastu Swarupa Avadharanam Vidyam Ahu. Tatra evam sati yatra yat adhyasaha tat krutena doshena gunena anumatram api nas sambadhyate. Beautiful. Okay? What it says is, now there is an objection. The objection is that yes, I can understand that a silver can be imputed onto a shell. Both are what? Objects. Right? So I see both. I've seen this what? Silver earlier, and then I see something which is closer to silver and I take that silver to be, that shell to be silver. What is the condition? Both are objects. Silver is an object and shell is an object. But here you are telling me that the attributes of I are imputed on an object. Right? So that means, he says, but I is never available for objectification. Your I is never available. Anything that you objectify is an object or the subject? Object. Right? So that means you have seen an object before which is silver, and that silver gets imputed onto a shell which is an object. But in this case you are telling me there is a mix-up between I and object, but I have only seen objects. How can I mix up I with an object? Do you get this argument? Can you follow this argument? No. Okay. Two things have to be in front of you and they have to be similar in order for you to impute one on the other. Right? Now, so that means they are both objects. Now here, what is the whole premise? You need to know Atma. And Atma is mixed up with body, which is an object. Right? So now, the Purva Paksha is asking this question. Right? The one object that you have seen earlier gets imputed onto one, but Atma is never seen. If Atma is never seen, how will you mix up that Atma for the body? Get the point? What have you seen as an object? You have seen as an object body. You have seen as an object what?
Mind, senses.
Exactly. Mind, senses. You have seen as an object all these things. Have you seen Atma? No. In order for that superimposition to take place, you need to see two things. I mean, you should have seen both in order for that superimposition to take place. Please understand, these are very critical arguments. They are not just intellectual, because this is what we are talking about. You need to be clear. You follow this logic? If you have never seen Atma, then how will you impute the quality of what? The body on that Atma. In order for you to do that, you should have seen both. But Atma by definition is what? Something which is never going to be available to you as an object. The minute you make Atma into an object, then what happens?
It is not Atma.
It's not Atma. Excellent. Very good. Right? Because you make it an object, then who is the subject who sees that object? We are talking about that subject, which is never available for objectification. Atma, by definition, is something which objectifies everything else. Itself doesn't what? Cannot be an object. So if you have never objectified Atma, how will you do this mix-up? What is the condition that you should have seen two objects and then there is a mix-up? That is, the opposition is asking this question. Do you see the importance of this question?
I want to ask something.
Yes, please.
The mix-up is there in our mind, not in the Atma. Or is it Who is making the mix-up?
You are making a mix-up, but in what Purva Paksha is saying, even for you, the individual, to make a mix-up, you need to see you should have the knowledge of what? Silver, which is an object. You should have seen silver, and then now you see the shell. Then that mix-up is possible. But you have never, an individual has never seen an object called Atma. So how are you going to mix up the two? That is the opposition. You are right, Atma doesn't need clarification, but it's you who needs clarification. That's true. The buddhi mixes up, but the question is, how can a buddhi which has not seen the Atma do a mix-up? That is the question. You're making a claim that the buddhi has a mix-up, but in order for a buddhi to have a mix-up, it should have seen Atma and seen body and then mix up one for the other.
He needs to slot something in place. And so, like, we give an image to a God. So, like that, it gives an image to the Atma. And it makes your attributes into that Atma.
So that means, absolutely. It has given that image, but what the objection is, you've never actually seen an Atma. And without seeing the Atma, that whole process of superimposition is not possible.
Which could be a similar argument for mind and brain, right? We've never seen the mind, but we think of it synonymously as the brain.
Yeah.
Similar
Argument, right? So now, what is our answer to that? Our answer is, it is true that in order for you to, the buddhi, as Uddhav is saying, it's your buddhi which makes a mistake, your intellect which is making a mistake about what is I and what is not I. Okay? Now that intellect has never objectified I, cannot be objectified. Okay? But still it is possible to superimpose what? The attributes of body on that I. Because even though that I is not available to you as an object, it is still available to you as what?
Presence.
Exactly.
As what? Sorry?
As
Presence.
as the presence, as the self-evident presence. So therefore, if it was totally unknown to you, if Atma was totally unknown to you, can you superimpose one thing on the other? On that Atma? Because it's not even known to you. Atma is known to you, but there is only one thing in this universe which is known to you, not as an object, but as the subject. There is only one thing. And that subject can never be objectified. And what is that subject that is available to you? As Rajan says, it is available as, we will see more in detail, that presence which is awareful presence. And onto that awareful presence you load what?
Color.
Your color. What is your color? The attributes of your body, attributes of your mind, attributes of what? Interactions and all the load that is. So that means your I gets all loaded, that awareful presence which is free gets loaded. If Atma was totally unknown to you, can you load it? No. It is known to you, but what? Not accurately known to you. Because it is not accurately known, you load the presence. So therefore, he redefines this objection. And he says, in order for that superimposition to take place, the condition is not that you need to know two things as an object. What is the condition? You need to know them. Whether as a subject or as an object, you need to know. Something which is totally unknown. Can you superimpose on one thing something which is not known to you at all? Can you?
No.
No. Right? If I say superimpose on this glass Gagabuga, you don't know what is Gagabuga, how are you going to superimpose? Totally unknown thing cannot be superimposed. You need to know it. But knowing need not be what? As an object. Got the argument?
So it's like your analogy of the man on the boat yesterday. You've got to get the knowledge of the sea or the river. So we've got to find the knowledge of the eye. It's just that we don't accurately know it at the moment.
That's
Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. But you know, here, yes, up to now I have been teaching Vedanta, and which is true. What all you are saying is right. Here, what we are doing is, there are some opposite standpoints for questioning what we are saying and what that we are trying to answer. So we need to get into nuances of those questions. We need to understand what they are asking, and then we need to answer. That will strengthen our understanding. It will deepen what you are saying is absolutely right, but deepen what you are understanding a little bit more. Because when you raise an objection, and then when you answer it, what happens?
Another
You
objection.
understand it. There's no clarity.
You add nuance to that whole understanding. You add clarity to that understanding. So that means if you have understood what I have said before, it's right. But now it is testing that understanding towards what? Through people who are just opposing it and saying, yeah, but why are you saying that? And then you have to answer. First you need to understand what they are asking. Then secondly, you then need to answer them. It's a little intricate process, but try to stay with me because these are very important arguments. In the long run, if you have not done all of this analysis, Vedanta will remain vague. It's not just technical. It is that depth of understanding where you test. It's not just, yeah, okay, now this is how it is. It's not like that. And this is why very often people will tell me, you know, people listen to Vedanta from me and they think they understand. They go out there and they are very enthusiastic and they start talking about Vedanta. And somebody says, yeah, so what is this? They bring little bit of science here and there, they throw some here and there and some logic, and then you are lost. You don't know how to answer them. What does it mean?
You don't understood.
You've not understood. It seems like understanding, but it is not complete. That's why when people throw questions, you are not clear. All your non-clarity starts coming out. So here, we don't wait for those people who ask you questions, we ourselves raise those questions. And we make you think about it. And when we make you think about it, which is not even in your mind, it seems as though we are creating trouble where there was no trouble. But actually, what are we doing?
Polishing.
We are polishing. That polishing, that deepening of this knowledge is so, so important. Otherwise, it's all vague knowledge. There is no clarity. This is the process of creating clarity. So you attempt to follow. If you don't follow everything, don't worry, right? But try to see. Don't dismiss it as, yeah, what difference does it make? It makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. And don't try to just hang on to what I have said before. Try to see what the present argument is and what we are trying to answer. Because we are comfortable with what we know and we keep on bringing that back, which is it's fine. But how it can be argued upon and how you then have to answer it is something which increases your understanding. It is deepening and giving roots, deep roots to this Vedanta Shastra. Okay?
Is it
So
such a-
therefore,
I suppose it's absolutely necessary to implement this in your daily life.
Absolutely. It is absolutely necessary. It's very critical that you get that clarity. Without clarity, there is no way you can understand Vedanta. The clarity has to seep through your mind. Clear, 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 clear. All, everything clear.
Can I clear a point?
Yes.
Just like you said just now, you picked up the glass and you said if I tell you superimpose Gugun Boga on it, there is no now, what do you superimpose? Now vice versa. If you tell me, if there is nothing there, the glass is not there, and you tell me superimpose Gugun Boga on this, can you get me what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Both
so that
ways.
means both ways it works. Wonderful, Neetu. Wonderful. So that means there have to be two things which are known, which are there, then only you can superimpose one on the other. So the argument of Purva Paksha is, Atma is not available to you as an object.
Yeah, but
so therefore, how will you superimpose?
But the fact that I am superimposing means it is there.
The fact that you are exactly, it is there.
Something
our
is there.
answer is, it is there, but not as an object, as self-evident.
Yeah.
You saw our answer? There is no rule. Surya, you want to say
I
something?
just want to come back to the text itself. I think if you look at the flow of the text, in some way we are trying to establish the possibility that there is a superimposition. So this is what we are trying to establish. And the opponent is saying, no, it's impossible. And these are the reasons why it's impossible. And we are saying, no, in spite of all this, still there is something, and we are trying to argue out and show that it is possible that we superimpose something else upon ourselves. And then it will come back to, once this possibility is established, after having dismissed the argument of this Purvapaksha, then the text will proceed. See? So this is how the text is proceeding. So you have to have this in mind. So we are at the preliminary, at the introduction now. Is this possible to have this mutual superimposition between I and non-I?
Yeah, that is the starting point which I started with, saying that whole Vedanta is for knowing.
Yeah.
Knowing means what? Right? Knowing because there is a mix-up. Right? Now what kind of, is it possible to have a mix-up? So these are how they are actually arguing with us. It's okay?
Yep.
Now, if you don't understand, don't worry. You will understand someday, but this is okay.
Or you get to feel that you are understanding it.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I mean, the whole Vedanta Shastra is something that it's a lifelong process, so don't worry. Right? So, now he gives an example, okay, to make it a little bit more clear, that how is it possible that without objectifying, right, you can superimpose one thing on the other. So he gives an example, not Atma, but that of a space. Can you say that the space is available for perception? Space is not available, by the way, for perception. It's not like an object.
The absence of an object.
Sorry?
The absence of an object.
Exactly. Right? So space as in, it's never available to you for objectification. Like Atma, there is only one thing which is still not available to you for perception, and that is space. But even if space is not available for you for perception, he says, Balaha, the kids, and also us, right, superimpose what? Blueness on that space. So that means his condition that you have to see two things in order to what? Superimpose one on the other is not true. Without what? Objectifying space, what? We superimpose certain attributes onto the space. Similarly, without objectifying Atma. We've never seen Atma. It's not available to us as an object. But because it is available to us as I, the self-evident presence, onto that presence gets imputed all the characteristics of the body, mind and senses. Okay, so what is the condition? That it has to be known, but there is no rule that it has to be known as an object. Totally unknown, you can't superimpose. True. But even though Atma is not available as an object, it is known. It is known as that self-evident presence. So that's why it becomes a locus on which something else gets superimposed.
So space is not an object?
Space is not available to you for perception.
What is the color of space? What is the form of space? Does it have a smell? Does it have a sound? The perception have access only to that.
Space.
What are the attributes of space?
Space is an object, but it is not available to you for perception. Time, space is an object. I mean, object within, yeah.
There can be only one subject.
Anatma, absolutely. Absolutely.
But we
not
take it as a
available.
reference.
We take it as a reference, but as we will see, it is an object of your awareness. So that it is an object, but here the point is not that it is an object, it's not available for perception. Pratyaksha is the argument, right? So now, here. Now, the next question, let's move. Whether you understood or not, let's move. Right. Now the problem is, what do you need to do? You need to remove this adhyasa. Right? Because the whole pursuit is what? Removal of that mix-up. So therefore, how will you go about removing this superimposition? What will you do?
By negating.
How will you negate?
Be self-aware, more self-aware.
You cannot know what you are mixing it up with. Since you don't know what you are, you sort of negate that I am not this.
Okay, so that means what is this whole process then?
Learning.
To go and get the knowledge.
Learning about the I.
Exactly. Because that mix-up is not going to automatically go away. This is why many people ask this question, yeah, so why can't meditation undo this mix-up?
There's no knowledge in meditation.
Because you sit quietly, but if you, there is a superimposition which is done where you are imputing what? The characteristic of the body, mind, sense complex of that Atma, and Atma is taken to be as good as what, just by sitting quiet, can you undo that mix-up? You will never be able to undo that mix-up. So therefore, if you want to undo the mix-up, what do you need? As Ava says, what? What do you need to do?
Knowledge.
The only thing you have to do is knowledge. There is no other way. Because if there is a mix-up, all you have to do is to what?
Study it, learn it.
Study it, learn it and undo that mix-up which is happening in your buddhi. Right? Because if I take that one moon as 2 and I want it to be 1 and I try to fix the moon, and my whole life I try to fix the moon, where will I get?
Man.
I'll go back.
Depressed.
Right? So therefore, the only way is for me to fix up. Fix up my eyes so that I can see what? And if, for example, I have mistaken the silver for the shell for the silver, and as Surya says, it's not only that, but I want to run and somebody else wants that shell and I'm fighting and all of that, and a wise man comes and sees what? 2 of us fighting over what we think is silver. What does the wise man have to do? Does that wise man have to tell you, oh, you be detached to silver? Oh, silver comes and goes. Be detached to silver. What is the value of silver? This is all what we do. If the person is a wise person, where will he work?
To tell you what it is.
Exactly. To tell you what it is. And what is it? It is shell. When you see it as shell, what will happen?
You stop fighting.
You stop fighting. Because the whole problem is we haven't even we are imputing things which are not there. And we are trying to fix it. Wonderful. Okay, so if you want to stop the fight, the wise person doesn't have to give you any advice about how you should be, you should be your attitude, be detached, be this. Only has to do what? Make you see the shell. When you see the shell as shell and you stop superimposing silver on it, then what will happen? It will get clear, right? So any superimposition, in order to solve that superimposition, what do you need to do? Get clarity as to what it is, right? Because until I get clarity, then what? I'm working at the wrong place. So therefore, any superimposition, this Vedanta says, the cause of the superimposition is what? Avidya. Not knowing is the cause. Vidha, if I knew it accurately, I can't superimpose. This very superimposition implies that there is ignorance. So if I want to eliminate superimposition, where do I need to tackle? The avidya, the ignorance. The minute I get to what? See the thing as it is, superimposition will automatically go. Do you understand that? Wonderful. Right? So therefore, the whole pursuit, if I is taken to be what? All these little body and mind and the attributes of body and mind and then what well-being of others, if my I is loaded on all of this, and I think that my I is really loaded with all of this, and if I want to be free, what is the solution? Unload it. Because it actually doesn't belong to I in the first place. You see, I have to see my I as it is, not with my superimposition. As long as you continue to see it with superimposition, what will happen?
Carry more baggage.
You carry more and more baggage. You have to see the nature of I as it is. This is why knowing yourself becomes critical for removing that superimposition. Do you see the connection between, where is the connection between adhyasa and avidya and then knowledge? Do you see the three connections? Adhyasa, a superimposition, takes place because of ignorance. So if you want to correct that superimposition, what do you need to tackle? Ignorance. So what is opposite of ignorance? Knowledge. Wonderful. Mathematics. It is like mathematics. Otherwise you don't know what you are doing in life. What you are trying to solve and where is the locus of problem. You don't know. And then everybody works out. So that means if my I is loaded with all this, I have what? Ignorance of the true nature of I. If I have ignorance of true nature of I, what is the pursuit? Removing that ignorance and seeing the nature of I as it is. If I begin to see the nature of I as it is, what will happen to my superimposition?
It will automatically go.
Logical steps. Okay? So avidya becomes, then knowledge becomes the pursuit. Otherwise, you don't know what is the pursuit for your freedom. Everybody wants to be free. They have no idea what should I do for that freedom. So now you begin to see that what for that freedom I need knowledge of myself. Why do I need knowledge of that? Because there is a very beautiful line where this Bhasyam says, it says beautiful, right? Because the what you superimpose, right? The locus of that superimposition, does it have any quality of what you superimpose? Not at all. Not anumatra. Right? So that means if you don't understand that this redness belongs to the cloth, and you start thinking that it belongs to the crystal, and you want to clear the crystal, you want to free it from redness, are you working at the right place? No. Why? Because even though it seems to you that the crystal is red, crystal is always free from being red. Always. It is never touched even little bit by the redness. So any attempt to clean it up is futile. Excellent. You only need to know that crystal was never red. Never red. It was never red. So that means this has huge implications. Huge. Because if you take Atma as limited, afflicted, and this is the reality about you, and you make a lot of effort, what? Of cleaning it up, is it the right pursuit? No. Why?
Because Atma doesn't have any of it.
Excellent. Absolutely. This is what it is saying.
Cleaning at the wrong place.
You are cleaning at the wrong place. And as long as you keep cleaning at the wrong place, will you find a solution? Never. Absolutely. Huge implication. Okay, so that superimposition is because of avidya. Avidya can be only taken care of by knowledge. So therefore, as Surya says, what is our point? The whole pursuit is that of knowledge of Atma. And for what? To undo the superimposition. We have made some mix-up in our buddhi. And the whole pursuit is what? To undo that mix-up in our buddhi. And see Atma clearly as it is, without our own additions and our own subtractions. Okay? This is the subject matter of Vedanta Shastra. Seeing the true nature of Atma. And according to it, Atma is already free. Okay? But because of our own mix-up, we impute on that Atma what? All these limitations. All the limitations. Okay? So now, avidya becomes the pursuit. Now, I think it is enough. It's 11. So I will stop here in the...
No, Vidya becomes
the pursuit. Removal of avidya becomes the pursuit. Just think about the relationship between adhyasa, avidya and knowledge. If you get that clear, then you have understood. Yes?
You just repeat what?
Yeah. So the relationship between that superimposition, then ignorance and knowledge. That superimposition is because of ignorance. And if I want to remove that superimposition,
Gain knowledge.
gain knowledge. Excellent.
So you get clarity.
Then you get clarity. Yeah? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.